We're going live first, straight to London, where I-24 News European correspondent Jonathan Sacerdoti is standing by. Jonathan, I just want to touch first on the dealings of Europe with this overwhelming stream of refugees into the continent. What are we looking at when it comes to these upcoming talks, supposedly on Monday, between EU countries of trying to assist each other in taking in these numbers of people?
The EU's immigration policy is falling apart before our eyes. It just wasn't designed for this sort of influx of migrants. And that is becoming clear day by day. As we saw around 3,000 migrants arriving at the main station in Budapest and being denied entry to the trains that they had mostly bought tickets for to take them to Germany, which is accepting, as you saw there in the report, all immigrants who are seeking asylum from Syria. But if they can't get to Germany, they're unable to do that. Now, the Hungarians say, for their part, that they are simply applying European law, and the Schengen law in particular, which says that those who arrive seeking asylum need to do so in the first country they reach in the European Union. But that surely can't have been a law designed with this in mind, with thousands and thousands of people arriving in Greece, in Hungary, and in Italy, because those are entry points to the European Union. And those countries are also struggling to be able to cope. They're trying to keep the immigrants out by erecting fences or having tighter security, but they're not able to cope when they have the immigrants in, and yet they have these laws which they need to obey. So that is the challenge for the European Union in the days and weeks ahead. It's to figure out exactly what a unified European policy will be.
Some countries, as you're sitting in right now, that don't seem to be willing to take anybody in the case of the UK.
So the UK is an interesting example. Firstly, it's not part of that Schengen zone with open movement, right. And it's now, in a sense, quite happy with itself for not being in that situation. The UK has rehoused very, very few Syrian refugees comparatively, whereas you heard there that Germany is willing to rehouse and allow in anyone from Syria. Right. So there's a marked contrast there. And across the whole of Europe, all these different European states all have slightly different intentions when it comes to these migrants. That, of course, others are saying is totally unfair. Either this is a European Union, which will deal with this all collectively, spreading the burden so that the financial strain isn't all put on certain countries. And for example, Greece is the least able possibly to be able to stand up to that sort of economic pressure, and yet is experiencing a huge amount of this immigration influx. So really, the European Union is in dire need of some sort of solution where the member states would agree to share this burden. And yet, all of those member states need to get together. That doesn't happen so urgently. All of those member states then need to actually agree on what the unified policy will be. And in the meantime, the immigrants are still coming in their thousands every day and still struggling, sleeping now, for example, on the steps of the train station in Budapest. These are people who have fled some of the most tyrannical regimes in the world, people who have experienced war, people who have hunger and famine.
These are children, these are many, exactly, children and women that we see in these pictures, men, children and women that clearly feel that it's just unsafe to be in the lands that they are, and they are right. Jonathan, very valid point, because we are discussing thus far what we've discussed is, it's the minutiae of the bureaucracy of moving around Europe right now and the need for a unified policy, but it's about people. It's about those people that Jonathan mentioned, refugees who are fleeing war-torn countries. Let's take a look at the following report of what they need to go through in order to find a safe haven.